Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Reality Flash. My name is Mike Bloom, and I'm here to bring you the flashiest breaking news in the wide world of reality TV. And today, we've got a big piece of news to drop. Get ready for a takeover as Big Brother and The Amazing Race are crossing over yet again. Yet I would say it's the most ambitious crossover, perhaps, as we are going to be getting into an Amazing Race season made up entirely of Big Brother alumni and their loved ones. Now, of course, whenever we see anything with the terms big and brother in succession in the title, this man cannot be far behind. He is one of the biggest experts on this show to the point where he wrote a freaking book about it. He is slowly but surely losing his sanity over the course of this current season of Big Brother. You can check him out every day on the live feed updates. It is the great, the one, the only Taran Armstrong.
Thank you. Wow, what an introduction. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean this is fun, you know? Again, these reality shows on CBS in particular have been around for a quarter of a decade, and we can certainly talk about a couple of times where we crossed the streams a smidge, but now we really are kind of funneling the streams into this little tributary right here as I mean, believe it or not, Taran, a decade ago, 10 years as we stand, we opened up a little season called Big Brother 17 with an announcement, get ready for a takeover. Phil Kogan popped up on the screen and said, hey, there's two people that were just on The Amazing Race. Now they're going to be Big Brother house guests. And finally, a decade later, the favor has been returned in a major way as the cast of The Amazing Race 38 has officially been announced by CBS. We have bios, we have photos. You can check all that at, various outlets, including myself at parade.com. And we are going to be checking out, Taran, what happens when all of these house guests step foot out of Studio City and step foot into Europe, as they are going to be racing against each other, in some cases competing against each other once more.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Big Brother players have probably the best track record in terms of outside reality show contestants on The Amazing Race already. So, in some ways, this is like the best versions of non-Amazing Racers playing The Amazing Race. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so let's get into that a little bit because again, this certainly is the biggest amount of Big Brother teams we have had in one season of The Amazing Race. But this is a tradition, as you mentioned, Taran, that started over 20 years ago. Do you remember by chance the first Big Brother house guest to appear on The Amazing Race?
It was Allison, right?
It was the one, the only Allison Irwin
With her
appeared.
boyfriend.
Yes, her boyfriend at the time, Donnie, who also made his own appearance on Big Brother 4 in
Hmm.
a not so fun way, but they raced together in The Amazing Race season 5. They won the first leg and were eliminated the next leg. But it definitely set forward a precedent that we have seen a myriad of time since, again, over the quarter century nearly that The Amazing Race has been going on. We've had a huge amount of, standout teams and duos from The Amazing Race from Big Brother, I should say, come onto The Amazing Race. Of course, The Amazing Race 31 was themed as sort of this reality takeover of Big Brother versus Survivor versus The Amazing Race, where we had three teams from Big Brother there. We've had people like Jeff and Jordan compete on seasons in the past. And what's really fun, Taran, is that, of course, you are recapping everything involving Rachel Riley this summer on Big Brother 27. But before she was a three-time house guest, she was a three-time racer, where she raced twice around the world with her now husband, Brendan. They made the final leg twice. And then she most recently raced with her sister, Alyssa. So again, as you mentioned, there's a good amount of DNA that has been mixed in to the point where, as you also mentioned, we have had two Big Brother teams win The Amazing Race proper. Cody and Jessica won in season 30, and of course, Derek X and Claire won in season 34. We're going to get into obviously everything you need to know about this season, as well as going through the teams and their BB backgrounds for the uninitiated. But again, as the expert on all things Big Brother, Taran, when this news first came across your desk, what was your initial reaction?
I mean, for me, it was excitement. Not only am I going to get to see people from the show that I watch the most, that I cover, on another show that I used to watch more of, if we're being honest, but still, like it's exciting. I was very, very happy to see Derek and Claire go on The Amazing Race, and especially to go on and win it. And so the ability to watch more Big Brother players do their thing on The Amazing Race is very, very fun. I have a few friends on the cast, which is very fun. And just in general, I tend to enjoy when people are cast on other shows because for as much as maybe the viewers don't always love this, becoming a person on reality television has become a bit of a career. And so the more work that these people can find, the better, I think. I think that, it's better to have, I think, reality stars that are working in this field rather than just continuing to exploit the desire for people to be on TV, pay them very little, and then cast them aside.
Yeah, so it's really interesting you point out again this sort of like burgeoning of all-star reality shows because again, while there has been precedent for having Big Brother contestants on The Amazing Race, this is by far the most amount we've gotten in one particular season. I think when this news first came out, there was a lot of questioning from the fan base of kind of both shows as to like, why now? Where did this come from? I'm not necessarily speaking on behalf of the producers or production in general. I can think of a couple of reasons. One large reason being that Big Brother is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. And so this is a way to kind of honor that in a very different way, especially if they knew they weren't going to do an all-star season for the occasion from a Big Brother perspective. Maybe they still want to get those faces in front of an audience in a very different light. You could say, okay, but where's the Survivor representation? They are sort of doing their own, quarter century celebration in the form of a Survivor 50. So I think this made a bit of sense if you wanted to, again, celebrate this milestone in a bit of a different way. We could certainly get into the cast and a lot of the recency that exists in it as well. The vast majority of them first appeared on Big Brother from season 23 on. Not to get too much into the ticky-tack, but I do believe the story is that a lot of these CBS players are under contract for 2 years. And so maybe it's a matter of like, okay, a lot of these people are still under contract with us. So let's be sure to, we can sort of bring them under the umbrella rather than bring people in from the outside who haven't been on in a long time. And that is all to say, as much as we're talking about the familiar faces that we're going to be watching on our screens this fall, it's not going to be all familiar faces because Taran, to bring in a bit from the third CBS reality pillar here, we've got a little bit of like a Big Brother blood versus water situation, as with one exception, all of the 13 teams this season consist of one former Big Brother house guest and one of their loved ones who has never appeared on reality TV before.
Which is a very interesting choice, to be honest. If you're going to theme your season as Big Brother, it to me, it makes more sense to pair up Big Brother players. You get double the amount of Big Brother players, double the amount of appeal for what I would assume going for. But maybe there's something about that. I know they've tried, strangers before. They've tried, and funny enough, there's a stranger pair that came on to Big Brother.
Yeah.
But maybe there's something about having like an established like actual relationship that they really wanted to make sure that they had for the chemistry of the season. But yeah, definitely an interesting choice to have loved ones.
Let's get into some of the details we know about the season before we get into the cast proper. It's scant details at the moment. We might find out some stuff more as we are a month and change away from this. This is a very early announcement. The Amazing Race 38 is premiering on Thursday, September 25th. It will ordinarily air on Wednesdays, occupying that slot that it usually has after Survivor with 90-minute episodes. But because Survivor is doing a 2-hour premiere, The Amazing Race will be airing its premiere the next day. I believe it will be airing at 9 p.m. following the eviction episode of Big Brother 27. Should be the last eviction episode of the season before that finale on the 28th. So a very understandable lead in there. It will air a 90-minute premiere and again will air on Wednesdays subsequently. We know via press release from CBS today that it is going to be a trip primarily in Europe. We are sort of saying segmented to one continent for whatever reason, rather than doing a bit more of the globe trotting that we've experienced more recently in seasons 35 and 37. And Taran, believe it or not, these Big Brother players are going to face a twist right out of the gate.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just when you thought it was safe to get out of the house, apparently these players are going to be undergoing a task before they even set foot on the starting line. They are starting the race in Amsterdam, an international starting line. But I'll read directly here from the press release. For the first time in the Amazing Race history, teams face their first challenge before even lining up on the starting line. The first team to complete the task receives an express pass, and the last team to complete the task faces the consequences of a hazard. Now, just to explain that parlance a bit for those of you who are not Amazing Race fans, an express pass is sort of like a get out of jail free card where at any time during any task, you can play the express pass and basically skip it. So if you're struggling in a task, you can play the express pass and not have to complete it. If you are out in front and you want to continue that lead, you can play the express pass. A hazard is something that we've only seen once before in The Amazing Race. But essentially, if you know what a speed bump is in The Amazing Race, it's that before the first leg. The team that finishes in last place in the starting task will automatically have to do one more task than the other teams in the starting leg. So they'll put them at a bit of a disadvantage to survive that first elimination. I mean, Taran, this feels kind of like part and parcel with like the upgrade downgrade stuff from Big Brother 26, right?
Yeah, I will say I'm not the biggest fan of a first, like, out of the gate task kind of situation like that. My personal issue with it is that, like, usually you don't know the teams well enough to care who wins. So like a slower start where you're getting to know the teams as they start their journey, I think tends to be better. Now, in this case, maybe more people are familiar with the team, so they do already have a rooting interest. But if that's the case, then I think that you're almost dooming yourself, because somebody right out of the gate is going to have an awful disadvantage, and people might be fans of that person, and they're going to be disappointed right away. I don't know. I don't think I like this.
Well, we shall see how much this will handicap these teams as they begin their European adventure. We have a couple of countries that they will be going to. Again, they're starting in Amsterdam. They will reach new heights in Prague, bathe like a king in Budapest, and skydive nearly 13,000 feet over Romania. If you missed it, they also put out like the first little promo for the Amazing Race 38 that I imagine we'll see on tonight's episode of Big Brother, as well as myriad times over the next month and change. One more thing I want to ask Taran from a speculative perspective before we get into the teams proper, because the Amazing Race, I think definitely out of the CBS Big Three, is the least oriented around social strategy. That's not to say that over the past 24 years, we haven't seen elements get brought in. You know, we started with this idea of The Yield, which debuted in Allison Irwin's season of season 5, where you could choose another team to essentially get penalized a certain amount of time. There's the, I think it's cousin that ended up sticking around for much longer in the U-turn, where you can force another team to go back and do the other half of the detour. We've seen a lot of versions of these over the years that allow you to either directly impact other teams' performances. Given the fact that all of these teams have at least some experience in the social strategy setting of Big Brother, do you think this season will feature more of those elements to kind of line up with their skill sets?
It seems possible. I mean, I guarantee you that this cast is going to be scheming. I mean, there's a lot of pre-existing relationships. Big Brother, like many reality shows that feature returning contestants, is certainly known for its pre-gaming. So I'm sure there's a bit of that, especially again with all of the pre-existing relationships that already exist. Now, like, the amount that you can do with an alliance in The Amazing Race is limited in comparison to other shows, but I guarantee you there's going to be some attempts here. And so the more like active features in the game that complement that, I think will further sort of highlight it.
So let's get into this group. The 13 teams that are going to be racing around the world. It is, once again, a pretty large cast from previous Amazing Race seasons. That does lead me to believe that we might be facing another one of these no non-elimination leg seasons. So unfortunately, Taran, I think fans' hearts are going to get crushed one way or the other each and every week. But let's get into these pairs. And what I will say is, if you are an Amazing Race fan who does not know Big Brother, this will be your opportunity to get to know them before the race starts. That's why we have Taran on this podcast. He's going to give us what we need to know about each one of these Big Brother alum. I will say right out here that we are going to be spoiling events of Big Brother 12, Big Brother 18, and Big Brother seasons 22 through 26. So listen, if you, for whatever reason, want to get up to snuff with some of these teams, good luck, because Big Brother seasons are like 30, 40 episodes. Maybe that's why they released the cast so early. I would say, though, Taran, to be safe as someone looking to get into Big Brother, to know the most they possibly could before the Amazing Race season, given the time that we have, it probably would make the most sense, given the cast makeup, to watch seasons 24 through 26 specifically.
Yeah, I mean, you'll definitely get the most amount of like context for the players. Something else you can do, it won't be quite in time for the season, but you can buy my book, Behind the Mirror, which is about the show Big Brother. Quite frankly, perfect for anybody who is like an Amazing Race fan who is interested in learning what Big Brother is all about. You're going to know all about Big Brother. Not necessarily specifically these players, but you'll understand the show a lot more once you're able to read it in November.
So if you don't wish to know stuff that happens in these Big Brother seasons, feel free to tune out now, because we are going to spoil the bejesus out of them, considering the role that a lot of these people play. We're going to go through these teams in the way that they were presented in the official cast announcement, which is in alphabetical order by first name, sort of like they have the players standing like, in a line together. And so they start with the left person and then the right person. So it's not always going to be the Big Brother contestant that starts the team name. So we might dart around a little bit. But Taran, we're going to be starting with a pretty significant presence in the past year or so of Big Brother. And in fact, it's going to be somebody that you will be speaking to tonight on the eviction recap. Absolutely perfect timing. It is Angela Murray from Big Brother 26 and her daughter, Lexi. What can you tell us about the Angela Murray experience?
Well, we will be speaking to her tonight on the recap. So if you're interested in seeing her on a podcast, you can tune in tonight. But Angela was on last season of Big Brother 26. She was the first head of households, which meant that she was in control of the game in the first week, essentially. She surprised us all when she kind of lost her mind and stayed up all night practicing a speech, and then the following morning went off on her fellow house guests, calling one of them crazy eyes, believing that the proposed alliances that had been brought to her the day before were fake, called them good actors for a low budget movie, and just, essentially tanked her entire game from there. She went on to be a huge detriment to anybody that she was aligned with, often getting them targeted because she kept turning on them, and was quite the character on the show. She was a lot more strategic than she let on, than a lot of people believed her to be. In fact, some of the fans started to believe that she was a plant, that she was like a fake contestant because she was like too much of a wild card. And to my knowledge, has some shaky relationships with her fellow house guests from that season. So definitely an interesting inclusion here for The Amazing Race.
Yeah, Angela is one to wear certainly her feelings and opinions on her sleeves. She rather infamously mocked a contestant's walk to her face. She was on her knees in the diary room pining for her beloved charcuterie board. Maybe there'll be like a charcuterie roadblock, all you can eat. That'll be Angela's form of heaven. So I am really excited to see what this version of Angela is going to be. Now, what's interesting is, correct me if I'm wrong here, Taran, I believe among Angela's myriad of on-screen appearances that were discovered during her time in the Big Brother house, it was revealed that she actually applied to the Amazing Race before, but with her son. This season, she is on with her daughter Lexi, who I also believe was the subject of Angela's appearance on Dr. Phil's house calls.
Yeah, we discovered this when Angela was on the season of Big Brother last year, that she had been on a Dr. Phil episode because her, and this is according to, and you know, how real is Dr. Phil, right? Like,
Great
but
question, just in general.
yeah, according to the episode on Dr. Phil, her daughter had not spoken to her husband, the father of her daughter, for like something like 3 years, despite living in the same house. This is according to the episode because he like took her phone away from her at some point. And the whole thrust of the episode was like, is Angela enabling this behavior? We need to reconnect the father and daughter. It was very strange, and so it is no surprise that it is the daughter that has been chosen to compete with Angela for the Amazing Race.
And just a little bit of information on, again, the non-Big Brother partners here. Lexi is 23. She's an esthetician, and she currently lives in Las Vegas, Nevada. So we shall see if the gambles they take will end up with a $1 million payout. Let's move to our next team here. And I will say, Taran, there has been a lot of comments about, in particular with these photos, the background that they've used. They've done away with sort of like the nature outdoorsy backgrounds that they've used in previous seasons, and more so gone with this sort of like matte yellow cover. And unfortunately, it means that Hannah Chada and her sister Simone Chada are blending into the background a bit, which is unfortunate because I feel like Hannah, or Chada as she was, more colloquially referred to, was a standout on Big Brother 23.
I love Chada. She's wonderful. I would consider her a friend of mine. She was on Big Brother 23. Didn't do super well that season in terms of like her own individual game, but she was part of the most dominant alliance in the history of the show, the Cookout. They got all 6 of the Black players that season into the final 6. She was then subsequently taken down by another player in this cast, Kylin and Xavier, that season. But she showed a lot of promise, and she has been very active in the Big Brother community since then. She is also like incredibly smart. She got like her doctorate degree. I don't really understand what all these terms are, but she's like a real professional person who also just happens to dabble in reality television. And I've also met her sister, who is like also like the sweetest person I've ever met. So I'm very, very excited to see the two of them. Now, I say all of that. I think the two of them both are fully capable of being devious and making good TV. I think that they are, like, for as nice as they are, they know what they're there for, and I think that they could absolutely make their mark here.
Don't get it twisted. Chada has medical bills to pay at this point from med school, so she's looking for that bankroll. Also, a bit of information about Simone. She is 22. She is a graduate student, I believe, which was Hannah's, job, quote unquote, in Big Brother 23 as well. So it all comes full circle. And she lives in LA. Let's get into our next team. Very excited to announce that friend of the podcast, Izzy Gleicher from Big Brother 25, is back on reality TV alongside her fiance, Paige.
Yes, Izzy's fantastic as well. Another person who is very tight with us here at the podcast. She competed in our version of the pressure cooker competition, where we had a bunch of podcasters and Izzy like hold a tennis ball on top of their heads for 12 hours.
And at a certain
Like
point in the
Izzy,
Amazing Race history, the tasks were that low budget, where you know that could be like a speed bump, is hold a tennis ball above your head for an hour.
yes. Izzy's down to do whatever. She is very competitive. She is going to be trying hard at everything that she puts her head to. She competed in Big Brother 25 with Cirie Fields from Survivor. She was the only person who was able to not only recognize Cirie, but also recognize her son Jared that season. And so worked very closely with the three of them. She was a huge presence in the house. Didn't make the edit as much as she should have, but was a very, very active player. Very, very fun to watch. And I'm very excited to see how she does here on The Amazing Race. I think she's going to make great TV.
Yeah, she definitely ruled the first like month and a half of Big Brother 25 with a very messy but iron fist alongside Cirie and Jared and Felicia. They were the ones that were kind of dictating the vote outcome and then flipping on that outcome, then flipping back on that outcome multiple times. And it all comes crashing down almost in an instant where, you know, the wrong person wins HOH. She's put up on the block, and the house for the first time that season flips to evict her as one of, you know, the big power players that were in charge up to that point. So Izzy walked out of her life temporarily in a pig costume. She is coming back here in black, I should say, for the funeral of these other teams alongside Paige, her fiance. They live together, obviously, in New York City. Izzy, as we know, is a flautist. Paige is a lighting designer. And I will say I have a very fun story about Izzy and Paige, Taran, because I went to, and so did Jessica Leese, the premiere screening for The Amazing Race 37 this spring that Carson and Jack, the eventual winners, were hosting in Brooklyn. And I was standing next to Izzy and Paige as we were watching the episode. And, you know, full disclosure, rumors of this season were out at that time, and they looked me in the eye and lied straight to my face, being like, I wish we were on that season. Look at what we could have done. And so we shot the shit that entire night. I had absolutely no idea that mere weeks later, we would find out that the two of them were going to be on the race proper. So I am very excited to, you know, have the opportunity for them to gloat about that and maybe get one over on the other racers, just like they did with me.
Yeah, very happy for them. Very excited to see him.
All right, let's move into a very recent face on Big Brother. We saw her take home the win in dominant fashion. It is Jack Baham and his daughter, Big Brother 26 winner, Chelsea Baham.
Yes, Chelsea, the winner of Angela's season last season. She won in incredibly dominant fashion, basically turned the entire second half of that season into quite a slog because of how predictable it was. She had like a minion in Mackenzie who was trading competition wins back and forth with Chelsea, and just got Mackenzie to take her to the end of the game while manipulating her into essentially just being a terrible jury threat. Like nobody wanted to vote for Mackenzie. So very, very well, did very, very well. Had a rocky relationship with Angela, I will say. But was definitely like a very, very competent player, was very good at competitions, and somebody that I think would be a huge threat in The Amazing Race in terms of her ability to sort of socialize and strategize with other teams to potentially be working with them, while also being capable at the sort of the roadblocks and everything themselves.
Yeah, I am incredibly intrigued to see how Chelsea is perceived coming into this because, again, this filmed over the course of like the spring, late spring, early summer. And so she is kind of like the most recent face that people remember, considering that, as you mentioned, I think a lot of fans herald her game as one of the most dominant in recent memory, if not ever. She not only was one of the best, most consistent players in a very inconsistent house, especially early on, but as you mentioned, she tied the record for HOH wins in a season. She became the first woman in a civilian version of Big Brother US to win unanimously. So even though it might be a bit apples and oranges when it comes to Big Brother versus The Amazing Race, I think that, she certainly has a good head on her shoulders. She is joined by her father, Jack, who is an LA City firefighter. He's 58 years old. So while he is probably the oldest man on this cast, he still has a lot of physicality to him as well. So she probably is one of the most interested people I am in this season, particularly if some of those social strategic elements are going to come in early on in the season.
Yeah, definitely don't sleep on Chelsea.
All right, next up, we've got the most old school team, technically speaking. And this is the contestant who debuted the earliest on Big Brother out of this cast. The Meow Meow is back for his fourth life on reality TV at this point. It is Jack Palumbo and his brother, two-time finale, maker, I suppose, Enzo Palumbo.
Yes, you might be able to sleep on Enzo. Here's the thing about Enzo. He has a storied history with Big Brother. He was a part of the first most dominant alliance in the history of the show, the Brigade, in season 12. He was an essential part of making it work. In that season, he got all the way to the end and then was cut in the final three, though he was not super likely to have won it anyway. Because the thing about Enzo is that he's very, very good at making people feel good, at building a team, keeping the team together, rah-rah, cheerleading the team, making other people feel comfortable, making them feel like, oh, we're all just hanging out while secretly slitting their throats. And that sounds really great. But he does it for the benefit of others more often than for the benefit of himself. And one of his flaws in Big Brother was that he didn't win enough competitions. It was primarily his allies that were winning those competitions. Then you get to the challenge, and he has quite a disastrous run there where he does make it to the final of the challenge, but taps out like immediately, costing his partner the chance to win.
Yeah, it was a swimming task specifically where Enzo was not good in the water. There's a reason why they call him the Meow Meow, folks. And the final started off with teams in the water. And he immediately is like, can't do this, yo. I'm tapping out. And listen, he was not the only person to quit that final. He really just got the ball rolling. But yeah, it does end up screwing over Survivor 35's Desi in the process. But he does then, he does come back earlier than that to Big Brother 22 and has a much better showing by comparison.
Yes, he did manage to win a couple of those competitions that season, but again, just played primarily for the benefit of his ally, specifically Cody, who did take him to the end, but beat him unanimously. Now, that's not as much of a problem in The Amazing Race. If Enzo is as good at getting to the end in The Amazing Race as he is in Big Brother, then he doesn't have to deal with a jury not respecting his game. But The Amazing Race is a little more challenge oriented than something like Big Brother. The social ability will not be enough on its own to get him through, and so that's where I think he's going to need to make sure that he ups his game competitively, and hopefully his brother can maybe kick in a bit there too.
Well, speaking of his brother, this is another Jack. We have Jack Baham and Jack Palumbo, though Jack, I believe, is short for Giacomo, which is his full name. Jack is 40 years old, and he is a financial analyst. Also very interesting, Enzo's currently listed job is line boat handler.
I don't even know what that is.
I thought he was going to go back to the Bayonne nipple factory after he talked it up so much.
Yeah.
All right, well, maybe that's the closest he's getting to the water. So we'll see what happens with these brothers, but let's talk about another one, Taran, and let's talk about another champion of Big Brother. This is Jas Baines alongside his brother, the winner of Big Brother 25, Jag Baines.
Yes, this is the winner of Izzy's season, Big Brother 25. Jag is a competitor. Strategically, he left a lot to be desired on his season. He was actually evicted and was saved by essentially a non-elimination leg, right?
Yeah.
Of Big Brother. And then went on to make the same mistakes that got him evicted the first time and nearly got evicted again. And then eventually he started winning every competition remaining. Now, controversially, he was competing against a bunch of people who were either much older or much less athletic than he was. Him and his ally Matt, who was a Paralympian, basically were able to just completely dominate the end game competitions. If this sounds familiar, it's because it is. It's exactly what happened with Chelsea and Mackenzie, and it's exactly what happened like every other season in the 20s, basically. But Jag in particular really happened to win a lot of these things. And Jag as a competitor, I do think, despite the controversy, is someone to be feared, and that's because he's almost like, as Chelsea is to social strategy, very, very competent. Jag is to competitions. He has hustle. He knows generally like a good strategy to approach any given competition. He's not always, I think, going to be like the standout best, like dominating performance, but he's always going to be up there. He's always going to be competitive with the best performer. And he's always somebody that you have to be worried about. He's never somebody you're going to look behind you and he's like a million miles away. He's always going to be up there at the front, at least when it comes to the competitions I've seen him competing in on Big Brother. So definitely somebody to watch out for here. And to my knowledge, Jazz is also very fun and very likable and also very good at things. So
yeah, the two of them, they have a very similar background. They are both entrepreneurs. Jazz is only 1 year older than Jag. So that's what I'm really intrigued about here is oftentimes when we talk about successful Amazing Race teams, it's a lot of sort of the yin yang of like, I can't do these things, but this person, my partner, can take care of them. It feels a bit more multiplicative when it comes to Jazz and Jag, where we'll find out maybe they do have different skill sets, but at the outset, at least, it kind of seems like another Jag to the point where they share a very similar 67% of the letters in their name. And so, again, if Jag has an all-around set of skills as you're speaking to, that could be fine, but we might run into something where both of them struggle in it. And then that might be one of the rare times where things don't go so well for them.
Yeah, I mean, strategically and socially is where they might struggle. Jag has a reputation for being a big competition threat and should theoretically be looked at with fear from some of the other players. And while he does have, I think, a few connections in this cast, he, again, was not like the person who made the best decisions strategically with those connections on his season of Big Brother. Maybe he's learned from that. Maybe he will do better now. But that is the potential weakness here, I would say, for Jag and Jazz.
Believe it or not, Taran, a third set of brothers in a row here. We are going from Big Brother 25 to Big Brother 24. Joseph Abden and his brother Adam Abden. What do we need to know about Joseph 28 at this point?
Yes, Joseph competed on Big Brother 24 with we'll eventually talk about her Taylor, and he was somebody. He was actually not like somebody who won a bunch of competitions that season. In fact,
he was the last person added to the cast. He was a last-minute alternate that got there. And hey, listen, we had an alternate in Claire compete on The Amazing Race and do pretty dang well.
Yeah. So Joseph, yeah, not somebody who was like a phenomenal competitor on his season at the very least. He was really outshined by competitors like Michael and Monty on that season. But he was a very likable guy. And very actively playing the game, not always correctly. Sometimes, asking his ally Taylor to put him on the block for no particular reason, and just being a little bit messy here and there. But a very fun player, somebody who is very sort of like just passionate about like just playing the game. And he was one of the few people who was able to sort of like step out and recognize what was happening with Taylor that season. She was being bullied and ostracized and villainized. And he was one of the first people to go, this is wrong. I don't think this is true. And so developed a pretty close relationship with her. They started dating after the show, and subsequently broke up. And so I'm sure that history is going to be a part of the season. But to my knowledge, it was very amicable and they're very good friends still. So I doubt there's going to be any kind of drama there. But don't quote me. But either way, I think he's going to be a very likable force on the cast. I think that he definitely has the potential to do well. He's a clearly extremely fit guy. And I think I think he's a perfect fit for the race. I think that people are going to love him.
Yeah, I mean, he was, I think Adam in particular specifically was the first person to talk in the preview that released alongside this cast. It's clear that, I think they're going to be big characters who feed into each other's energy. I think Joseph has, a little bit of unfinished business as well. He gets taken out in this brand new twist where they split the house in half and he's, stranded in the backyard with someone that we're going to talk about in Turner and the people that were part of this Leftovers alliance that had run sort of the game up to that point turned on him and he got evicted there. So, I think a lot of people felt certainly in the moment that he had a lot of unfinished potential that I think maybe could get explored in a very different way this season. Though, should also mention, just like I did with Jag and Jazz, Adam is 24 to Joseph 28. He is sort of following in his footsteps as a law student, is from Florida too. So we could also be dealing with another thing of two guys occupying the same skill sets on a team.
Well, the question is, will he be turning 25 while playing the race?
That is a great question. We know that's when these Abdin men get on lock.
Yeah.
All right. Next up here, we are not conspiring against her, at least at the moment. From Big Brother 21, it is Kat Dunn and her boyfriend, Alex Romo.
Yeah, there was a funny moment on the live feeds earlier this season when Rachel was talking about Alumni, and she brought up Kat and how much she loves Kat because Kat is super welcoming and such a great part of the community and so nice and is not stuck up at all. And she was like, "Do you guys know Kat?" And they were like, "I don't really." She was like, "She's the person who's like, are you bitches conspiring against me?" And they're like, "Oh, that's Kat. I remember Kat." So that is her legacy on the show. Basically, she was on Big Brother 21, a fairly controversial season, but she managed to avoid most of that and became a bit of an underdog fan favorite. She developed these catchphrases like "Are you bitches conspiring against me?" and was quite a character on the cast. She actually had gone on to the season with somebody else that she knew of beforehand. They were friends,
knew each other,
and so worked pretty closely with her. Was ultimately taken out by Tommy because of her positioning in the game. But she was, again, a pretty active and hard player, very fun TV, and did a podcast for a while that was very fun. I cited it in my book because she interviewed one A baller about his drug empire after Big Brother. And so I think she's going to be very fun to watch on the cast. I think that she wasn't exactly known for her competition wins by any means, but I think I think I have to imagine the dynamic between her and Alex is going to be very, very funny. That's my prediction.
I agree. I don't know a lot about Alex, so I know that he is a photographer that lives with Kat in Dallas. But again, I would imagine that they are personalities that very much, are able to meet each other where they are. And what's also interesting when you talk about the podcast is Kat, after her season, was part of the exit press circuit. She would talk with these house guests from season 23, 24, 25, 26. So even though she's the only one from her season, she certainly still has connections with a lot of these more modern racers on the season.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, she was definitely known as one of the more hard-hitting exit interviews. But in a way that is endearing, because that's just kind of like who Kat is. I think she can be pretty hard-hitting while still endearing herself to you in some capacity. So, yeah, I'm excited to see her.
Yeah, we have the cat and the meow meow on this season. They say Big Brother's made for the cat people, Taran. They're really showing it on this season.
Mm.
All right, next up here, a pair of sisters, and one of the standouts from last season. It is Christine Bernabe and her sister, and the fourth place finisher of Big Brother 26, Rubina, in the matching parachute pants. I love it.
Yes, Rubina, also from last season, the season that Chelsea won. Rubina was sort of like on to Chelsea by the end of the season. Her and Chemo were trying to take Chelsea out. They just couldn't win a competition to save their lives, literally, because it ended up costing them everything, in the game at least. Which obviously is, again, I think the biggest thing we can do to try to predict the capability of a person to win the Amazing Race is how good were they at the competitions of Big Brother, especially because Big Brother, heavily criticized for this, has a problem with physical competitions and men winning them, and the Amazing Race does too. So I imagine there's some decent crossover there. I imagine this will be a problem for Rubina, who did struggle with some of the competitions in Big Brother, but otherwise was, again, I think very likable, very fun. She fell in love with Tucker on the show. I believe that at the time of this race, they were still together.
They were, yes.
So that's interesting. There is a dating couple that are not on the same team at the time of them racing. Tucker will be on this cast as well. Her connection to Tucker and to Chelsea, I imagine there's going to be some kind of Big Brother 26 alliance. I think her social connections are perhaps her biggest asset in the game, at least, again, considering the competition history. I think there are going to be a lot of people that will be very happy to work with her and want to help her team.
And just a little bit of information about her sister, Christine. She is 38 years old, also lives in LA, and is a floral designer. So we shall see, if their teamwork will allow their racing to bloom or if it shall wither on the vine. Next up, Taran, we have a very unique team to talk about here. This is the one exception I mentioned earlier, because this features not one Big Brother alum, but two, Kylin Young from Big Brother 23 and the winner of Big Brother 24, Taylor Hale. And Taran, is this like an official hard launch for them? Because the relationship status, as per CBS at the time, is dating.
Honestly, I don't know. Don't ask me. Dating, if that is the official description, I think that probably makes sense. I don't know if it's a hard launch. I don't know if it's a launch. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but Taylor and Kylin, yes, seem to be a dating couple on The Amazing Race this season, and the only team with two players that both were on Big Brother. Kylin, as I mentioned, from Hannah's season 23, was part of the Cookout Alliance, was very good at competitions. Definitely very strong in the competitions. Definitely somebody to watch out for in terms of that. He was also a pretty good strategist. His social game was very good at times. However, eventually became a bit overbearing, didn't have a great shot to win in the end, especially because he kind of, threw himself on his sword to benefit the gentleman's agreement alliance he had with his fellow competitor Xavier.
Yeah, Batman had to face off against Goku in the finals, Taran. It was meant to be.
Yeah, he had this notion that like the two competitive men should face off in the final two. Xavier was like, nah, I'd rather beat somebody easier, and took Kylin out. Kylin was very upset about this in a very famous confrontation, and has subsequently gone on to compete on the challenge, where I think he's performed pretty well. And just generally somebody that I would always be sort of like expecting to do well in these things, despite throwing it away, in my opinion, on 23.
Yeah, and I would say just on that note before we move on to Taylor, yeah, I mean, Kylin has really made a name for himself on the challenge. You know, he's not on this most recent season, I think probably due to this, but I think definitely cemented himself as one of the newer standouts from the last generation to come before this most recent one. He did appear on the Challenge USA season 1 alongside Enzo, but he made a much bigger name for himself on the Challenge 39 and then especially on the Challenge 40, where you had some of the best competitors in the history of the show being like, Kylin is a machine. They called him the calculator. He was someone that was really dominating a lot of these daily missions until they got to the final, which was entirely swimming. And Kylin can basically master the doggy paddle, and that's it. So all of a sudden, he went from having one of the best chances of winning the game to dead last in every single task that they did. But as you mentioned, he does a really good job of, I think, looking at a task and being able to think through the best way to do it. And I think that's a lot of what Amazing Race tasks entail.
Yeah, and I think also it will be interesting to see him with Taylor. Kylin, to my memory on Big Brother, definitely was somebody that liked to do things his way. And so this could definitely be an interesting dynamic between him and Taylor in terms of like how they operate together. Do they work well together? What's the dynamic? I think will be very interesting to see. Speaking of, Taylor is the other side of this, of course. She is the winner of season 24, which is the season Joseph was on. Again, she was dating Joseph prior to her relationship with Kylin. But again, very amicable. I don't think there's any drama there. I honestly would expect them to maybe even be working together in the season. Taylor, somebody, again, not really known for her competition wins on her season of the show. However, she then went on to compete on a spin-off version of Big Brother called Reindeer Games, where she was the runner-up. She came in second place, doing very well in many of those competitions, and kind of, in my opinion, kind of like proving herself and on a more strategic level that she wasn't able to demonstrate as much on her Big Brother season. Because she had such a rough time of it. Very famously, Taylor on her season is perhaps the greatest underdog story in the history of the show. She started with all kinds of anywhere from micro to macro aggressions against her, being bullied, villainized, ostracized, told that she was the cause of somebody quitting the game for their mental health. There was all kinds of things. We don't need to go into to all of it.
No.
But she managed to persevere and overcome all of that and go on to win the entire season, which is just unheard of in Big Brother. She has an immense amount of resiliency. But also, I think very interestingly, is a person who came off of that season beloved by most fans. And then kind of struggled with the fact that like most people know her as the person beaten down and being resilient against that. And so when she's not being beaten down, people are like, hey, she's a little full of herself. You know what I mean? Like people don't like her as much sometimes when she's just being able to be herself. And so and we saw a little bit of that on Reindeer Games. So interesting stuff there. I think that she's definitely competitive. She's definitely somebody who cares a lot about, like prepping. And I know Kylin is as well. So I'm sure they both did a bunch of prep work before the season. They really care about winning. And I think the two of them together are definitely a very dangerous team.
Yeah, so speaking about Taylor specifically, I mean, she has one of the best arcs that I've seen from a winner, not even on Big Brother, but in reality TV in general, as she will quote in her powerhouse speech, like she was not a shield, she was a sword. So she went from kind of victim in the first couple of weeks to victor, not to be confused with the man who was on The Amazing Race with Nicole several seasons ago. And, Taylor set some records with her win. She became the first Black woman to win the civilian season, and Chelsea became the second. And to your point about popularity, she is the first and so far only winner in Big Brother history to not only win the game, but also win the fan favorite, America's Favorite House Guest prize as well. So what's also been really interesting is that even though she played only 3 years ago, she has become one of the faces of Big Brother. She appeared on this big, 25 season retrospective special. As you said, she appeared on reindeer games, and she is on our screens even before Amazing Race every other Friday as one of the co-hosts of Big Brother Unlocked. So kind of like Chelsea, considering how much Taylor's face has been around Big Brother even after her win, I'm really intrigued to see if that is going to influence people's perceptions of her and Kylin, because let's also talk about this, Taran. Taylor very much known for being an underdog, as you mentioned, but I think when people looked at this cast, there's been a lot of talk about Kylin and Taylor as overdogs. Do you feel it is unfair to have two Big Brother contestants paired together while everyone else only has 1 and 1?
I definitely think this is their biggest weakness, is the perception of them as a team, because they are the only people with 2 players on their team. And that's going to be threatening, I think, for a lot of the others, especially when you have other people who kind of should be on a team, like Tucker and Rubina. Like, why aren't they on a team together? I could definitely see this putting a big target on their back. In addition to that, I do think Taylor has some connections. I think Kylin has some connections, and that might help them. But they are, to my knowledge, not like super embedded in the like 26ers group, right? And so if I am one of the 26ers, I'm looking at Kylin and Taylor and I'm being like, they're probably my biggest threat right now. I would love to take them down. Them and maybe Jag, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, not to mention, Kylin played with Derek X and Claire, who could easily give him a lot of tips. I think for many reasons, not a lot of people are reaching out to Cody and Jessica for advice. So, and considering that, yeah, Kylin's preparation for the challenge was voluminously binging seasons and studying up on every single thing, I would not be surprised, depending on the timeline for getting notified about being on the show, that he didn't do the exact same thing. So they might be the big dogs from the jump here, and we shall see how long that takes them. Just a couple other teams here to talk through, and we go from one challenge finalist to another here. That's the next one. Let's talk about some Big Brother 24 contestants here, Taran. Someone who was alongside Taylor in the final 3 on finale night. These are the Turners, the newly minted Turners. We have Megan, formerly Belmonte, and Matt, who went by Turner in his season.
This is going to be weird because
I know
him as Turner. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to call him Matt. If they are going to call him Matt, then we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, though I guess Megan and Turner is also very odd, considering that is also her last name.
Right. This is an interesting inclusion. Honestly, not one I would have expected. Turner was an interesting presence on season 24, the same season as Taylor and Joseph. He did have a decent relationship with Joseph, and a good relationship with Taylor. Was actually one of the first people to like publicly stand up and defend her as well. Although, then, the relationship kind of deteriorated from there at times. But as far as I'm aware, would be perfectly friendly with both Taylor and Joseph in this scenario, in this circumstance. Megan was somebody who was fairly active during the season and seemed like a very fun person. So I'm excited to see her here with Turner. Turner was known for being pretty decent at some of the challenges, but otherwise was very sort of subservient to some of the bigger players. And Monty makes the very bad mistake of not taking Turner to the end and instead took Taylor to the end. He was completely destroyed by Taylor in the jury vote, whereas he would have basically won against Turner unanimously. Very famously, there was only one vote Taylor did not receive in the final 2, and it was Turner's vote. And his explanation afterward was that he would have voted for Taylor, but he thought everyone, even after all of the speeches and everything, was going to vote for Monty. So just a very and he's still in the community. He's always like cracking jokes and things.
I hope he knows when the episodes are on for this one.
I think that he will be very interesting to watch. I think that actually like this could be very fun. I think this could be a very fun team with a fun dynamic.
Yeah, I think his energy is very different compared to a lot of these other Big Brother contestants that we're talking about in terms of like, he definitely was turned up in a manner of speaking when it came to competitions. He won 3 HOHs. He helped, evict some big power players. But when he actually was in power, it was more of like a laid back approach of like, okay, you approach me with the plan and I'll sort of carry it out here. So I'm intrigued to see how that energy is going to carry over into kind of the go, go, go mindset from the Amazing Race. We should also mention that Megan is 24 and a private jet specialist. So maybe
What does
she
that
will
mean?
be. I have no idea. Put it alongside, line boat handler of the careers I need to look up after the fact, but maybe that'll get a little bit of gas in their tank. They were mega bussing in Big Brother 24, but hopefully they're, I don't know, planing and training in the Amazing Race 38.
There you go.
All right, now we are getting to that challenge finalist that I was talking about. With no offense to the Turners, I am very excited. Maybe I jumped the gun here to talk about the return of Natalie Negrotti to our screens alongside her sister, Stephanie. Talk to us about Natalie.
Honestly, this is probably the most out of left field in terms of the rest of the cast. Like, I think Natalie is an obvious inclusion. She was very good TV on both Big Brother and, to my knowledge, The Challenge. But in terms of her connection to, I think, a lot of these other players, she is not as involved in the Big Brother community nowadays. In fact, I don't think she ever really was very deeply involved in the Big Brother community, whereas most of these other players are deeply embedded in it. I think that she, again, to my knowledge, was more of like a challenge person, quite frankly. After her stint on Big Brother, she competed on the challenge a few times at least.
Yeah, she did 3 seasons. Probably her best finish and most memorable one was her second season, where she was paired up with her rival, and her rival in that case was her fellow Big Brother alum and future challenge standout, Pauly Calafiore.
So she was on season 18 of Big Brother. This was her first reality TV appearance. She competed with Pauly Calafiore, whose brother, Cody, is the one that beat out Enzo in season 22. Pauly also went on to be a much bigger challenge star than Big Brother star. She was part of the downfall of Pauly. She helped spearhead the resistance against his rule in the house. She was a very sort of like not hot-headed. She like had she was very firm in her stance.
Yeah, very fiery, I would say.
Yeah, like you could not walk over her. She would stand her ground. And in Big Brother, that's pretty valuable. And so she had this relationship with James on the season, who went on to win America's Favorite. It was not, I would say, a romantic relationship. I remember there being some stuff afterward, maybe even a restraining order. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Cease and desist, Taran, from talking about that.
Cease and desist. So there was some stuff going on there, but I think she's great. I mean, I think that she is a great reality TV personality. She just doesn't quite fit in with the rest of the cast, to my knowledge. I don't know that she has as many relationships with the rest of them in the way that like I said, most of the rest of them might.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's also interesting is that Natalie has a background as a former cheerleader for the New York Jets, and she actually has a connection to another Amazing Race team from seasons past in that perspective, in Tiffany and Krista. So I'm sure we'll find out down the line if she got any intel from them. And just a bit of insight into Stephanie. I mean, it looks like they're kind of, from a Big Brother reference here, starring in the Tall and the Short of It reboot. But Stephanie is 36 years old. She is in Hawaii, and she works in hospitality. So from the White Lotus to the Amazing Race.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't sleep on this team in terms of competitiveness. I mean, Natalie, again, not super well known for competitions on Big Brother, but went on to compete on the challenge and made a bit of a name for herself there, and is definitely like athletic enough to do well. And any kind of cheerleading background is going to be great for some of those challenges on the Amazing Race, where anything to do musically inclined, things or dancing or anything like that, where maybe some of the other like very physical guys that would otherwise often have a lot of advantage might struggle. But yeah, interesting. I'm excited to see Natalie.
Well, last but certainly not least, Taran, let's go from somebody who maybe not on the minds of the Big Brother fandom in 2025 to one of the house guests that definitely has been, considering the standout performance he had during, albeit his shorter amount of time on Big Brother 26, Tucker DeLaurier and his brother, Eric.
Yes, the boyfriend of Rubina competed in last season with the one that Chelsea won. So Rubina, Tucker, Chelsea, and Angela all from the same season. I fully expect Tucker, Chelsea, and Rubina to work together. Not so much Angela, but we'll see. Tucker was known for his bombastic style of gameplay. He volunteered to be put on the block. He won a veto and then used it on Angela instead of himself in order to take somebody else out of the game.
To Angela's surprise and most of the house.
Yes, strategically, he was a disaster, I would say, and his, in part because of that, became a massive fan favorite to the point where his influence over the current Big Brother season is disastrous for them as they try to replicate his disastrous gameplay. But he was very good at the competitions. Despite his disastrous strategic gameplay, he kept winning, kept saving himself up until it finally came back to bite him because he made a very crucial error in a puzzle competition, misunderstanding the rules. And what I will say is, that is a particularly bad way to lose a competition when if you're going to go on The Amazing Race.
Yeah,
because
rule
that
number
is
one of
how
The Amazing Race, read your clue.
And let me tell you, Big Brother challenges are not hard to understand. So if he had trouble,
I don't know,
if he had
Taran,
trouble,
they do explain it a number of times to the audience. Surely they must be complicated.
Yes. That I would say is probably his biggest flaw, is that if he runs into something and maybe speeds through the rules and doesn't understand it completely, we could see maybe that happening again, but we'll see.
Yeah, so Tucker is a massive personality. And like you mentioned, was looking in the Big Brother house to stir up chaos, to make good TV. It'll be interesting to see how that translates to The Amazing Race, because again, he was sort of rewarded handsomely for it. Not necessarily in the capital W win, but he was given the America's Favorite House Guest prize, the first person who did not make jury in Big Brother history to get the award. So I'm interested to see how much is he going to bring there? Is Eric going to balance him out or feed more of that personality? Eric is only a year older than Tucker. He's 32 in Boston. He's a senior research analyst. So maybe he brings a bit more of that academic side to the flair that Tucker's going to bring.
Yeah, they're both very athletic. Tucker does some climbing, so he's going to be very capable, I think, at anything. Climbing is typically a very good activity to have for most reality competition challenges. It's good for grip strength. It's good for like body awareness and positioning and balance. So that's, I think, a large part of why Tucker was very good at a lot of those things. He also is very capable with puzzles, as long as he understands the rules.
He really loves puzzles, I hear.
He really likes puzzles. So yeah, that's like a big thing. I mean, if these two are on their game, they could be unbeatable. And I do think they will also have a bit of a target on their backs coming in because of that. So that is something to watch out for. But again, what I will say is, if you're an Amazing Race fan, you already know this. But if you're a Big Brother fan and you're watching this, The Amazing Race is kind of designed for like young male teams. They have dominated the statistics of this show historically. So the fact that we have at least 3 of them in terms of like younger male teams who are all very athletic and all have a great history of like doing well in competitions, that is definitely something to keep an eye on here, and something that Big Brother players who have experience with this being a problem for them on their show as well, may be watching out for it also.
All right, there you have it, Taran. The Baker's Dozen teams on The Amazing Race 38, fresh out of the oven. So now we sort of wait for the premiere coming on September 25th to see what exactly the starting line task is going to entail, who's going to do well right out of the gate, who's going to be eliminated first. I can sort of tease the coverage that we have in the lead up to it because, listen, we talked a lot about speculation on these teams, but we do a lot more of that in a podcast that we are going to be releasing closer to the premiere date, day TBD. But all the way back in June, when we knew rumblings of these teams, but we knew nothing about placements, we decided to record a draft of the 13 teams. It was myself, it was Jessica Leese, and it was Taran. And we all drafted 4 teams each, left one to the audience. And again, sort of without any knowledge of what transpired over the course of the race. So we're going to bring that out of the vault. Definitely a timestamp in many ways. So that's going to be coming your way closer to the 25th. Additionally, we might be doing some more stuff as well. Definitely let us know if you want to see more Amazing Race preseason content. We might be kicking around a Amazing Race seasons to watch if you're a Big Brother fan, because I imagine there are a good amount of people that are checking out the Amazing Race, if not for the first time ever, for the first time in a long time. So there might be some seasons we can recommend, including ones that star Rachel Riley. And then when we get into the season proper, I can confirm that Jess will be back alongside me doing weekly recaps of Wednesday night episodes every Thursday. We'll be doing exit press with the most recently eliminated team. Maybe I can tease a little bit that might be able to get Taran involved in more Amazing Race things, that this in the draft may not be the last time we're going to hear him talking about these house guests on the Amazing Race 38.
There you go. Yeah, exciting. Listen, I'm here for it. I'm here to watch these Big Brother players. Very funnily, I think that when we recorded the draft, I very vaguely plugged my book by being like, I think there's a thing that you'll know what I'm talking about if this comes out later. So that'll be fun to watch as well. I think I said, honestly, I think I said a lot of the same things I said in this podcast. Well, yes. I don't remember. I don't remember my team, if I'm being honest.
No, Terry, yes, we've all been through a lot. It's been a long summer, but a fun one. But I'm excited to kick off the fall with the Amazing Race 38 coming to our screens at 9 p.m. after the Big Brother eviction on Thursday, September 25th. Of course, if you want more information, including photos of these teams, you can check out everything I have going on at parade.com. Hoping to talk with Phil Kogan in the lead up to this season as well to get his usual preview of these teams. I'm sure he has some really interesting thoughts of not knowing their Big Brother background, more so from an Amazing Race perspective, what they are like. Taran, you've done a little bit of plugging throughout here, but now let's go from the past plugging to the present plugging. What would you like to officially put out there for the listeners? Because suffice it to say, you are doing a lot right now.
Well, I mean, I'll say it again. If you're an Amazing Race fan and you're interested about Big Brother, I wrote this book. I've been in the process of writing this book for the last 3 years about this show. If you've never checked Big Brother out, or you're only loosely aware of it, maybe you hear people like me talking about it all the time on the podcast, and you're like, I could never commit to watching that show. But you watch The Amazing Race, so you're probably a little more academically inclined than I always saw Amazing. It was always the one that won the Emmys and stuff. I always saw it as the smarter show. So maybe you're a little more inclined to read a book about the show. You'll be informed about what this show is all about in a way that is hopefully very interesting. I really see Big Brother as a mirror to our society. And so I talk about the history of the show while diving into that notion and the different ways that it echoes us and the ways that we echo it, and the ways in which it has impacted my life growing up watching the show, and all of the different intricate ways that it has comments for a lot of different things. And so I think it'd be very interesting for somebody who doesn't really know much about it, but certainly is interested in reality TV in general. And then you'll be able to sort of whenever I pop up on your feed or you hear something about Big Brother, you'll be like, I know about that show. I know what they're talking about. So it'll be very fun for you. So you can find it at TaranArmstrong.com.
Perfect. And of course, if you're tuned into Big Brother 27, Taran has you covered, giving you everything you need to know about all of the daily conspirings that go on inside the walls of the Big Brother house at WeKnowBigBrother.com. Of course, make sure you subscribe to our Amazing Race feed at WeKnowAmazingRace.com. Now that the preseason has officially kicked up, you can follow me at a Mike Bloom type. Check out more episodes of The Reality Flash at TheRealityFlash.com. You can also send us any tips you might have, any pieces of news you want me to cover on The Reality Flash, tips at TheRealityFlash.com. And additionally, Australian Survivor, Australia versus the World, is coming out on Sunday. I will be doing weekly recaps there with Shannon. I got together with myself, Puya, and Chappelle. We teamed up as a threesome of the world against Shannon, representing Australia, to draft those 14 legendary all-star players from a global perspective. So be sure to check that out if you want to get a little bit of information as to what this cast is going to be before we get to see them duke it out in the Olympics of Survivor. There's a lot happening right now in reality television. The summer feels like it was lazy by comparison, considering everything we've got going on at the moment. But I'm always grateful to those of you that are supporting us, whether it's through the comments in the live chat or, on social media as well. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. I'll put this out as we get closer to the premiere as well. Let's try to keep it as chill as we can, considering that we are bringing Big Brother and its fandom and certain previous opinions about players into this season. I know there's a hefty amount of information as well out there about this season. Let's try to keep everyone as unvarnished, unspoiled as possible to have everyone get the best experience they possibly can. Because as I hear, Taran, the Amazing Race is supposed to be fun and good.
That's what they say.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of The Reality Flash. Taran, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to talk with me about this new exciting group of Big Brother teams who are making their way onto the Amazing Race. I'll be back in your eyes and ears soon with more reality TV news as it breaks. But until next time, everybody, you've just been flashed.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.